I have a
What
feeling
am I
it's
doing?
Yeah.
I am attempting to unfuck something with super glue before we go live because I probably won't have a chance to do it before tomorrow, and then I'll be thinking about it all of tomorrow. So that's why I was like, I'll just quickly fix this. Then I can finally get some rest, eh? Like, although that sounds. Hello and welcome to Gamer Knows, a weekly podcast from independent validator teams. And this week we're going to be talking about the final couple of stages in the Vuelta a España, what ultimately happened with Sepp Kuss. Spoiler alert, he won the GC, taking it out above his teammates, Jonas Vingegaard and Primoz Roglic, who slipped down to third after Vingegaard's attack, which we discussed in the last podcast. So, what did you guys think on the final GC standings in the Vuelta? I mean, it turned out it was all a bit of a nothing burger, really. The internal politics of Jumbo-Visma. Do you think it's going to have some impact on them as we kind of moved into the like the end of the season, Italian Classics, and then next season, what we might be thinking of in terms of GC and the Grand Tours?
I have no idea what in the fuck you're talking about.
I swear to God, you made up every one of those terms in there. Those are not real names.
Are they even real words?
It's all real words. It's all the real sport. It's all actually kind of well, it's not. I don't think any of that was. There were no takes. There were no takes involved. But no, it's just kind of the end of the Vuelta a España was not as exciting as it could have been. Although,
are you talking about football?
Cycling.
Cycling, yeah.
Yeah, Sepp Kuss.
Football.
I thought you were talking about sports ball.
Football. I mean, I say football a lot, but I don't actually watch football. That'd be weird.
What is that? Is it train spotting where the girls come up there? What are you all talking about? Football. What are you all talking about? Shopping.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah, somebody I know basically came. He was going to visit his cousin, right? So he came up to he went up to the city where he lived, and he knew he was going to have like a few hours before he saw him, and he wouldn't have anything to do, and he was like, "Fuck, what do I do?" And so he went and bought a football on his way to the train station, and then went like 300 miles across the country with this football under one arm, and then when he got there, went near to the place where he was meeting his mate, saw a park, and then just started like kicking the football around on his own. And then a group of lads were like, "Mate, he's like, I'm just waiting for some guys, but yeah, we can have a kick around while fucking always late, aren't they?" And then he just started a big game of football in the park. It was like football, and then was ages late to meet his actual cousin who was there to meet. And then when he came, he turned up, barged his way into this place. His cousin was not there yet, by the way. Everybody was late in the story. And this guy just knocks on the door. They open the door. He kicks a football through the door and goes, "Football." And they're like, "Sorry, what?" And he just like goes, kind of conga lines his way into the house, cracking a beer as he goes. And they're like, "Is that so-and-so's mate? Is that his cousin? Who are we expecting today?" And he's like, "Football." He's like, "What are you doing?" "Football." "What have you been doing?" "Football." And then his cousin arrives and he's like, "All right, mate. What have you been doing the last few hours? We've been waiting for me." He's like, "Football." So yeah, that's a story about football. Where's football was said a lot. And then there was a big house party there, and everybody was saying football. And then a bunch of those lads went to Glastonbury Festival with a massive flag. They got a flag made up 6x4 foot that said football. And then it ended up on the BBC in the UK. They show the festival footage, and they just kept panning to this flag and being like, some football fans in the audience. There you go. There's a story about football.
Was that held by Sepp Kuss?
Sepp Kuss, as it turned out, was the guy with the football. That was the plot twist at the end.
It's that.
He was the American cousin. He was the American cousin. He was over from Where is he from? Colorado?
No, I think I think we said we thought it was Wyoming, but it wasn't Wyoming. I think it was Colorado, right?
Yeah, Schultz got really excited about Wyoming, but then it turned out
because I said Wyoming and got really excited because there was somebody somewhat famous, although that's a stretch.
He'll be famous. He'll be famous now, though.
Is he?
Because you're
this lackluster win.
Yeah, how he got the time gap initially was a cracking piece of cycling.
Oh, I don't want to hear about it.
You just go watch the stage.
Look at Nelson aboard. He blurred himself out.
He's blurred himself out so he can have wank.
Yeah, what the fuck's going on with this cunt?
Lovely.
Lovely.
So I had I also have a
yes.
Ooh. So for those, so do you want to go straight into Noel's news corner? And in the meantime, I'm going to troll the chat.
We fucking discussed this. There is no Noel's news corner.
Robin did a really good job last week.
Sprinkle the news during the episode. Fucking cunt. I'm going to leave.
not the fucking banner, please.
Fuck the banner. Oh, cunt.
I'm exhausted. The Omniflix team, actually, your boy Joseph, who I think works on your team, right? No?
Yeah.
But is he part of Joe? Is he part of Omniflix as well? Does he do work for both, or is he kind of like an ambassador there, or is that part of King Nodes, or what's the story?
No, he does some work for them as well. So
he asked. They're doing an Omniflix chat today, which was really cool. Then they want to do they do validator roundtables and just ask them questions and things like that. That was on a Twitter space this morning, East Coast time. And I was thinking it was like a half an hour. I think we were on that thing went on for 2 hours. And so I'm a little bit spent. It was good though. We talked a lot about governance and I shed on that a little bit. They talked about validator operations. There was a lot of good questions from community members around different types of things. And somebody, an NFT collection holder was asking a bunch of questions around whether NFT teams should start validators and what that means. So I had some opinion.
What was the general gist of those? A couple of things with Omniflix. First of all, I assume that the validator expansion was an item of discussion.
It was. Actually, it wasn't early on, and then Syslick hopped on. And that's Omniflix Prop 16. And so we collectively said that every change should now probably just skip number 16 prop.
16's a veto.
Yeah, it's it's an auto veto. It's kind of like hotel level, floor 13. You just skip it, and so we'll just go from prop 15 to 17. But prop 16 on Omniflix, I voted abstain. Usually I would vote no on these, and so they were just looking for somebody else to be able to talk about it.
I had voted abstain, and then I changed it to no.
Yeah, I probably will as well. I'm not sure if the vote's still open. I said I probably would too. So I was very open around, Sisla brought up because I think they're in a tough spot. I think most chains are a tough spot about this because I think ultimately they don't want to expand the set because it just slows block times. There's really no benefit, but they want to be able to support what the community wants. And I was just saying it was, a little bit of theater, and it's better to kind of really work more around changing the Nakamoto and getting that number higher, and try to work on the top of the chain, not the bottom of the chain, because who gives a shit about 5 validators joining at 0.3% total? It doesn't fucking matter. It's not doing anything. And So anyway,
but sorry, just something you said, the slower block times. Then, I don't think that the effect on block time and it's a small overhead, really.
It depends on how many you're adding.
But it's an overhead you can't fucking get rid of.
You can't. You can lower it, right? You can lower that.
Yeah,
it's really
but
tough
then
to do so.
It's not. You just lower it.
Well,
you put in a fucking proposal, and then
it's culturally difficult to do so. Technically, it's easy. You just fucking put the proposal in, and people vote on it, and it's done. But
but people get fucking.
Well, it's like convergence on zero, isn't it? Basically, you're just eventually.
Yeah. Well,
as soon as you find
it does increase the overhead. Like Say, I mean, Say wouldn't. I don't think Say would be able to do it at 50, much less 75. It clearly wouldn't be able to do it at 100 validators, right?
What do you mean?
they
Oh,
wouldn't be.
actually, to fucking function.
Yeah, like it wouldn't. Like they would never keep that block time. They would never. Like it just. There's just a speed of light issue here.
They
in
would.
some of these types of things.
They would, but the shittiest performing validators would always be getting jailed.
They would just
because
they would just get completely missed every time, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because
it
the
also depends
network
on
latency is too low.
not just shitty performing, but if everybody was in Germany in 2 data centers, then you could probably make it work. But
Well,
even
that's it.
even that,
It'd end up like really centralized because people would be like fighting to make sure they're in that top fucking 67% that
Right.
does the signing, and
Right.
people who don't make it in time. So it'd be like the network would wait for 67% and then sign, and then
Yeah.
whoever didn't make it would get fucking eventually jailed because they're obviously running the shitty hardware. So
That's right.
So it'd be like people would be jacking up their hardware to like be first, and then
that's what we do on Say.
Hey,
that's what we do on Say. Like not from a validator perspective, but like our ability to keep a zero lag. As the farther you move away from Germany, the harder it is for that node to stay active or to stay on lag zero and to stay at the height, because you can actually watch, like I can watch logs coming across, and there's a speed of light issue here as well on my logs, right? Because I'm getting logs from halfway across the earth, which is 200 milliseconds no matter what, and you have block times of 387 milliseconds. So by the time I see them, it's kind of fucked. But I've noticed that I need to have stronger hardware the farther I am away from Germany. Like the node needs to be faster because the blocks are coming in delayed.
yeah,
right?
you
So
need to
I can
spit
run.
it out quicker to get it back in time.
You
Yeah,
got it. So I have to run like 79, like 50s or those types of things in the US, where in Germany I can run 2388s because I think the node actually needs to process the block somewhat faster to be able to do that. Now, how scientific that is, I don't really know. I'm just kind of watching it, and frankly, those are the cost difference of those is not a big deal, so it's not really that big of a deal. But because we were talking to like other, because I was working with a bunch of I don't know how we get this topic, but we were working with a bunch of CEXs that are on Say, and they're all running at AWS, and some of those are having real trouble like staying on the head, and part of that is because there's a lot of bad peers in Say, because I think people run lower nodes and then they're in the peer book, and then you start peering against nodes that are lagged way out, right? And those types of issues. But also they need to really bump the specs, and their specs are like ridiculously high at AWS. Like they're crazy expensive, because they need to have fast processing time.
I heard crazy expensive on AWS and was like, hold on.
I'm talking to some of these groups. They're running nodes that are $1.75 an hour plus egress on Say, which is like fucking crazy, right? There's a lot of data depending on how many, and they're peered with like 200 peers. So
you're running your node's $1.77 an hour, bro.
Yeah, I mean honestly, it's probably a $5,000 to $7,000 a month node. Like it probably is. Like when you get into it, like it's crazy.
That's what we were spending on Aptos.
I know. Well, you actually had all right, yeah, 2 nodes.
We had dedicated IOPS as well, like reserved IOPS as well, because the disk was the big bottleneck. So
yeah,
I'd have to look back in our configuration in the Terraform, but I think we were something like 64,000. I was about to say 100, but no, I think it might be 1,000 IOPS. It was a huge number.
I think IO1. I think is 64,000. It's like
I think it's 64,000.
That's all SAN based. I don't even know what the hell that is. That has to be like, I don't even know what that storage looks like. Like it's all cache and RAM, and then like I don't even know what the connection is. What, like over like 100 gig between the EC2 instances and the actual drives. Like I don't even know how that shit works. But
I mean, it's all just their own virtualization mesh, isn't it? It's like their own.
It's nuts though, yeah. So anyway, back to OmniFlex. So basically, I was just kind of, I think I might change my vote as well, or to say no. But I was just kind of poo-pooing on the idea that it actually makes any sort of difference. And I don't even know what the buy-in. And the buy-in actually was, I thought, pretty high, wasn't it? No, like it wasn't like.
Nah, it's like fuck all.
No, I thought it was like $13,000 or something like that.
You can't possibly like. I am like the number 6 validator there, I think. And
maybe I'm thinking of a different one.
The TVL of my validator is like 20 grand.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So, and the other thing I was saying is like, I'm like, and even I was saying this to the NFT holder as well, like, or the NFT group, because they were talking about, is it worthwhile? I'm like, just assume if you're gonna, it's okay to run a node, but are you going to run a node for the rest of your life? Like, is this what you want to do? Like, do you want to be able to support this? Running a node is easy. Running operations that are resilient, and you're saying I'm going to do this forever.
Being
or
on
at least
pager
until
duty is fucking exhausting.
it's exhausting, right? And then,
Like,
if this is what you want to be able to
genuinely, I
do,
think that the thing. Sorry to cut it a little bit, but I think the
you're
thing
right.
that we perhaps have
Are
not
you sorry though?
done well, no, a little bit, of course.
Yep.
Because Sam's making good points here, and what do I know? I'm a tired idiot, right? But I think one of the things we've talked about on the podcast before, we talked about burnout, we talked about a few other different things that kind of relate it, and like obviously if you run a small business, which is inherently what all of us do, it's quite hard to take holiday, and that's I literally in the last week or two, I've taken my first sort of 10-day. Just like I had a holiday a little bit earlier in the summer for 5 days, and then I've just taken another 10 days off. And this is like the most holiday I've taken in years and years and years and years and years. Spent some time with my son and whatnot, and it's been great. But like, we're number one, you're bad at that when you're a small business. 2, you're bad at it when you're a validator, and 3, you're super, super bad at it when you're constantly on pager duty. And pager duty, I know that I'm probably one of the only ones here that relies very heavily on sort of contract for the odd bits of additional stuff. Like we that's basically how we expand our resource base with how we work. And the very last thing you can get people to pay, you can pay them to do, is on calls, right? Because anybody who's a contractor, who's an infrastructure engineer, is doing that so they can get paid more for doing 9 to 5 and never having to do fucking pager duty again, right? So inherently you end up taking almost all of that stress, and it means that even when you do take time off, to usurper's point, do you want to do this for the rest of your life? Okay, maybe rest of your life is a stretch, but a lot of the networks we'll validate
10 years, 5 years, 15 years,
a lot
20
of the
years.
networks we validate right now have been in production for 2 years now, right? Aptos is nearly on its first birthday. Juno's second birthday is in 10 days. Ditto Stargaze. These are networks that we've been, all of us, running for a couple of years in production now. And even if you're on holiday, even if you do decide to take a holiday, which, as I kind of was going through there, and you need to do this, by the way, otherwise you will eventually crash your node out because you're too tired and you're too burnt out. So, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, not to mention on chains that are all losing money.
On chains that are all losing money, yeah.
It's not like it's like, oh shit, I gotta be up at 2 a.m. but I'm making
I'm making
20,000 a month or something, like right, like.
But that's the thing, like, even when you're on holiday, you're still checking, like, even if you are like, this week I'm off, I'm not going to do any work, you're still checking your page, you're still checking at various times. And
sure.
I think I told the story of when the first Juno cyber attack happened. That was like, in that year I only took about 4 or 5 days off, and it was basically just immediately post COVID, when we could travel, I went to spend some time with my dad, and I had to cut my holiday short because of the Juno cyber attack.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It happened when I was up a mountain with him, and it's just like, well, that. I was like, well, I literally I looked at we were just like he was like, oh, do you want to stop and get a coffee or something? I was like, that's a great idea. Just like picked up, as you do when you stop somewhere, and you're just like, oh, just take out my phone, see what's happening. Shouldn't have looked, lads. Shouldn't have looked.
Yep.
I had it on vibrate, and I was like, hang on a minute, the thing has been vibrating in my pocket.
There's a lot going on here.
100 messages from Max, all this sort of thing. I was like, right, we need to leave. This is done. This shit is, we're done. But like, that's the thing, isn't it? When back to your point as well about like talking to teams about, should we run a validator to make money? Well, at the moment, to make money, no, because you're not going to make money, number one.
No.
And number two, do you have the skill? I mean, some networks are much harder to run than others. Aptos, much harder to run. Say, much harder to run. Juno, Stargaze, etc., relatively well understood at this point. They've been in production a long time. Do you want to can you run it? B, are you going to make any money? And C, can you run it for the long term? Because it's tough logistically. It's tough on a mental health perspective. It's tough on a financial perspective because you're not going to be able to find people to help you, or it's very difficult to find people to help you, and you're kind of on your own.
You're a bit on your own. Yeah.
The validator life is like, it's much more glamorous in a bull market, let's say. At the moment, I don't know, like, but then the question is, how are those teams going to make money? I mean, back to the perennial question we ask every week on this podcast, right? How do you make money in this industry? If we knew we'd be doing it, right?
I mean, you go from chain to chain, and you find opportunity to opportunity, and you get lucky in some areas, and you miss some, you win some. That's it, right? But I think it's
and then you run the ghost chains for the rest of your life,
and then you carry
right. So many losers with you.
You carry all these things forward, because getting out of chains, I think, is the real challenge too. We've talked about that before, but like getting, and the other thing I was telling you this other day, it's not just running the validator, but like, I mean, you're running it, and even if you want to use a third party and those types of things, if you don't know what you're doing, because you're not only worrying about your piece, but you're also carrying the tokens of others, right? So if you're double sign, or if you get slashed or something else, you're carrying the burden of others' gains or whatever. And so if you're going to take that seriously, there's some responsibility there with that. And I think people get into this not thinking about that part of it, right? Like the ability to lose value for others, and what you do about that. So yeah, I think it's so anyway, that was my point on the OmniFix call. And for that group, I said, I'm like, if you want to use it as a marketing, I mean, there's a lot of marketers that are out there that run validators, right? And even Liam from Stakecito is one of the kind of, I guess, moderators of that call. And I mean, Stakecito, I mean, they know what they're doing, right? So I think they've built some a good team there in terms of being able to run. And they've had they tombstone somewhere else, right? Didn't they get slashed on something? I forget. We were talking about it a while back. It was like last summer or something. They got maybe not tombstone, maybe they got slashed on something. No, actually, I think they got tombstone somewhere. Somebody will remind me of what chain that was. But it happens. It can happen, right? And depending on the operator, and if you want to get in this game, like you have to be pretty on top of it for like a long time. So my advice to them was like, if you want to pay $500 a month for the ability to have a validator on that piece, and you want to use it as a marketing tool, then partner with somebody and recognize that you're not going to make money on it, and recognize that you're going to keep it going for a very, very long time. And I think that probably turned that person off, because it wasn't a great thing.
So, wow, yeah. I mean, the point of like running it for a very, very, very long time really depends on like,
it's kind of beyond our control, isn't it?
Well, no, yes and no. So whether the network runs is whether or not everyone runs it or not, but whether or not you continue there is like a decision based on, your respect for your delegators, I guess.
Yeah.
And so, the considerations when you're shutting down is like, is there any token value at all left?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the net effect to your delegators, and how does that affect your brand and your community? And if you don't make any money, but your delegators are still making money, then, it would be a business decision on your side to turn it off. It'd be a morality decision otherwise to keep it running for them. I mean, do you make an inherent commitment to just run it no matter what once you start a network? I think you do. But we have also shut down particular networks. So I'm considering shutting down our T grade validator because there's not a lot going on there. Yeah.
I thought that was your I thought you were really up on T grade and the possibilities there.
Yeah, but they launched it and it just hasn't had any real adoption whatsoever. So
yeah,
they've had recent things where they've said that they're working on this and that for this year. Giving it a bit longer to see how it goes. I have to check whether we're still under contract. have never made money out of it. It's always been a
Yeah.
loser for us.
Yeah.
We haven't really sold any of the token or anything, so we've been running that network for probably over maybe even 2 years now, at least a year, maybe a year and a half. But it doesn't, that particular network, it doesn't affect anyone if I leave, because that network's not based on delegated proof of stake. It's
fee based, right?
Sorry,
is it more fee based in terms of
no,
reward?
it's so
it's a different model that doesn't involve staking.
It's a whole different staking model,
Oh,
and your voting weight and your the return is your return of the inflation is based on engagement and engagement points, which you can then have staked to your validator. So basically, if I leave, it only affects me. Like, there's no one else that have they potentially is people with engagement points delegated to my validator, but 9 times out of 10 the validators are the ones with the engagement points anyway. So
I gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, you can always join later. Like at the moment, it's just we're printing empty block after empty block. So,
well, I mean, that's pretty common.
Yeah,
in a lot of chains, right? So, I mean, I think, I don't know. It's a, and the other thing is, like, if you're thinking long term, is all right. Do we have the opportunity to, like, are we going to hold off on some of these types of things, and we have the opportunity for it to be in a good position later? But I kind of have a little bit of a negative opinion towards some of those types of things. I think that things that have already peaked and you're down, 90% or 95% or 98% from some sort of all-time high, it's really difficult for those to actually come back. Not to that all-time high, but even to come back at all, because there's so many opportunities for somebody to fork a chain and come up with a similar idea. And
then
so
some new marketing,
the
and
next
then
thing is shiny
it out again in the next bull market, right?
Yeah, and then
but
something
also
else is shiny.
the tokenomics and whatnot, like, you go like, okay, well, if the all-time high was $1, right? And I expect it to recover in 3 years to 20 cents, right? You go like, well, by then the tokenomics will probably have radically changed, right? So minting will be less profitable. And then a commission, which may be between 5 and 10%, right? Is going to net us X amount, right? That's now X amount, which is, let's say, it probably, like, we're talking, by the time the bull runs comes back around, we're probably talking another year, maybe longer. Don't know. Not financial advice. But like on a lot of chains with kind of the early Cosmos Ponzi-nomics, you're going to see that you'll be making like a quarter, maybe less, in terms of like minting, like inflation rewards, which anyway, when the price starts going up, is going to cause its own problems, because everybody's going to get the same idea. They're all going to run for the exit. So the price is going to have a choppy way to get back up. And then the other problem you're going to have is that, let's say the price even does recover, you're as validator reliant, because we don't have another economic model other than inflation rewards, which we've talked about at length on this podcast in the past. You're making a much smaller absolute number from your previous percentage, right? Both in terms of any tokens you're self-delegating, but also in terms of anything that is delegated to you. So it's even like there's even less incentive. Like, if you're going to make money, probably anything that you as a company would make would be from your existing tokens you've already staked or compounded. That's going to far outstrip anything that comes into your validator, I would have thought anyway. So there's a very weird this is back again. I guess this is more a question of tokenomics, really, in a lot of ways, than it is about market forces, which is that there's actually like a pretty heavy disincentive if you're a Genesis validator on one of these high inflation in the first year type chains to actually keep running your validator past year or 2 or 3, because at that point you will have extracted the maximal value you can mathematically ever extract from that chain. So your best bet is actually to just withdraw and stake your tokens with another validator. The only reason you might not want to do so is jurisdictional reasons, or if you don't trust, if there's not another validator you trust, and to stay up. But there are a lot of good validators that continue running.
There are.
So I know it's an interesting question. I know Null's talked about it quite a lot. That particular question of like, where are you actually getting? Like, where would you? Obviously, we're not really making money at the moment, but in the Cosmos anyway. But like, where would you be hypothetically making money from? Is it tokens that you got at Genesis or near Genesis from inflation, or is it future tokens? Almost always the former.
So the only thing I would add to that is the morality. Like you're talking purely from a profitability perspective, but you also have to consider your users. And I think it's probably like the worst time the worst time you could shut down your validator is in the depth of a bear market when no one's paying attention, because then they might have picked your brand because they trust you, and then you shut down your validator while no one's paying attention and you're down bad. But then they come back when the enthusiasm returns to the market and find that they haven't received rewards for the last 6 months because they fucking you fucked them. So
right, because nobody's watching.
I don't know, like things like Juno, Stargaze, even Chihuahua, like during the bull market and when they launched, I feel like we did well enough out of those and took profits off the table enough that we can at least give them a chance for a long time. I kind of have a bit of a limit to where I'm willing to see things go. And my limit is if my TVL gets below like 10 grand.
Yeah.
That's
like, what's
when
the
I'm
point?
sort of looking at turning it off. Like, we're not making money after at the inflation rates at the moment. Like, a lot of them are sort of between, say, 7 and 30%. And if there's a TVL below like 200,000, you're already not making money.
Right. At 5%.
You probably haven't been making money for a while.
At 5%,
So,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, at 5%. And we won't go over 5%.
Right.
For the most part. So like all of our validators are 5%.
That's also a decision, right? To say at 200,000 at 5%, that's my limit, and I would rather leave the chain than increase my commission.
Yeah, so let me quick math this. So say if we've got 200,000 and there's, give it a generous amount, 15% of inflation.
Yeah.
This isn't accounting for like dilution and it fucking going down. 5% of that, $1,500 a year, $125 a month. That's actually probably
at what dollar amount?
So that's just taking into account TVL. So if your validator has 200 grand and then the inflation on that, assuming that the price is static, inflation of 15% gives you X, and then you take 5%, it's about $1,500.
That's not worth it.
For a year. That doesn't cover the cost of the servers. That doesn't cover an hour of my time. Like,
no, yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. But again, if it's a low
an hour, you bill $1,500 an hour.
No, on a monthly basis.
Oh, okay.
$125 a month. I definitely bill more than $125 an hour.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a good actually set of math, and then I think you make a decision from there whether or not what's the propensity for growth and what's the value of the chain. Do we think it's undervalued or is it overvalued, right? And those types of things. I think
so
based on that.
But also, to be fair, for just to cut in again, sorry, no, but like your math's just there where you're like, oh, actually, no, $125 an hour. Like that's another one of those numbers that sounds like a lot on paper. And then if you've ever had to pay a freelance infrastructure engineer, and because you're talking Kanga bucks as well, aren't you?
No, that's USD.
Well, okay, USD, there's, I would think, a slim chance you can get a decent infra person for $125 an hour, much less one who understands the cosmos.
Yeah, but you have to pay that person for fucking 40 hours a week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, but that's
no,
what, but that's what,
that's
but
his
that's what I
point.
mean. That's why,
Yeah.
like, even if you could, you can't, and even if you could, it would be more than that. And so, like, your maths is, if anything, like on the face of it, you're like $125 an hour. That sounds high. It's like, no, if anything, that's actually pretty low. That's
Yeah,
actually
well, it's also for 1 hour. So it's not like it's not 125 times 160 a month. It's
we.
for
At the
one.
risk of doing the taxes / accountancy discussion, as
Fucking
always,
nothing.
it's the
It is
6.
not worth it.
It's 6 months into the year now. Pretty much was. It's just coming up to it. So I was doing our running accounting. I was trying to work out where, like, it's really interesting. I guess I'm observing like just how those small incremental costs that you just go, oh, well, that's the cost of running the business. We have to do it. Servers, AWS, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And how quickly that stuff adds up.
Holy
like,
shit.
Holy shit. Like,
I think I canceled 7 bare metal machines this week because
I've been
I was just on a
around trying to work
well,
out.
I was on a well, this makes sense. Let's do this. And then I was doing things. Well, this is going to expire in November. I might as well just do it now and bring up a separate one. And this is a better deal. And I'm trying to change providers on some shit and like all these types of things. Then I realized that that I have a $12,000 a month infrastructure cost, and I'm looking at this going, what the fuck is going on? Like, where the hell did this come from? And I'm just not being smart about it, right? Because you get in that situation where you're making decisions based off of long term, but you look short term and you realize that, like, what the hell is this, right? But yeah, it's very easy. Those little things like, hey, this server's on a discount in this area. It's only $200 a month in Singapore, which is a really cheap thing. And you're like, I'll get 2 because I could use them, and then you realize, oh shit, that's $400 a month, like another $400 a month, right?
Yeah. Or any network where you always have to run a test net, like you sometimes forget again.
Oh yeah, right.
And I mean, and obviously, I know I bang on about it, but like, one of the big things that we've moved off, in the last 3-4 months was running a very large AWS rig for Aptos, and we had to run that for testnet as well. So that's one thing that, because our cost basis for that has changed, like you said, short term and long term. Like when you're like long term, we need it to be up. Like, as long as we know that above this dollar value, it's profitable, so you may as well do it. Don't worry about the cost basis too much. And then you like, when you change that and you see how it changes the numbers, you're like, well, yes and no. Yes and no, right? Yes, you're still making money, but when you aggregate like whatever it is, like a 5K difference, 4 months after, your company has 20 grand more in the bank, and you're like, oh, that's potentially the difference between seeing out another X months, if and when this ends or changes or whatever. That's runway,
right?
And that's a huge difference. Like, and you just, like you say, with your running around killing servers off, like you multiply that by a bunch of stuff, and it is really surprising. But like the second you've done it, right, you're just gonna, as a business, go out the next day and start accruing more of those costs again.
No,
never again.
Fucking no.
So let me hit you with some more quick math, right? Just back on profitability.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, I run 13 networks at the moment, right? I conservatively run networks. I don't just jump on them all. So
I resemble that remark. Actually,
yeah,
I'm middle of the road, to be honest.
So go ahead. I have 13. There is 4 networks that have a TVL above 200,000. But let's make a assumption that they all have a TVL of 200,000, right? Which they don't. So say we're making $125 per validator. That's $1,625 a month, right? My
USD or Kanga?
This is all USD.
Okay.
My infrastructure cost is probably $5.5.
That's $10 an hour.
Yeah. Plus my infrastructure cost is $5.5 grand a month, so it's a loss of fucking $4 grand a month.
I was looking at my TVL because I've been using behind the scenes. I've been this is kind of embarrassing to admit, to be honest, but I'm turning into a little bit of a Zabbix person, and
you use it once and you're hooked.
fucking. Well, we use Grafana Prometheus for like everything, right? And we use Grafana very heavily for like trending and analysis and like other types of things, which is really good. Like I nothing against those tools. Like I love it, and I love the timeline based type of shit and all this type of stuff. But for like regular, like for server management, like I want to know the disk temps, and I want to be able to get alerts based off of like things dropping out of HA proxy. To write each of those in Grafana is and the alerting there is a bit of a pain in the ass, and it's kind of shit. And so Null is part of his. Can I say this? Is it okay? That part of his holiday. A couple of us jumped in to be able to monitor some of KingNode's infrastructure to make sure that if something exploded while he was gone, which nothing did, because why would it? But if something exploded while he was gone, that there was at least another eye on it because he's going to be out of pocket. It's fair, right? And to be able just to step in like last minute to say this, whatever. And the signing infrastructure was separate. It was talking about like nodes to be able to, something last minute upgrade, something happens, blah, blah, blah. Like what we talked about before, it's a 24/7 job, right? It's a pain in the fucking ass. And so you can't go on a walkabout in the middle of an island in the winter for some reason.
For a week.
For a week, you literally cannot do that. And be 100% disconnected without some help. Like it's impossible to do. Like I have a go bag that goes with me everywhere because I got a fucking just in case, right? Everybody, all validators carry go bags. Anyway, so I'm watching all of Null's Zabbix infrastructure, and I was like, all right, some of this is pretty cool. Like some of it's very 1980s, like in terms of management, but some of that you need. Like I want to be able to look at disk temps, and I want to be able to look at smart information, and I want to be able to those types of things. And so I'm looking at one of his structures here, which is a TVL piece, and I'm recognizing that I think I have one Cosmos chain that's above your number. Like, why am I in Evmos? I'm number 100. My TVL says $2,800 on this dashboard. What the fuck am I doing in that chain? That chain is a pain in the ass.
Oh, is this you pulled in my template?
Yeah. Like, why the fuck am I in this? Like, what am I doing with this chain? Like, it's not going anywhere. Like, it's missing like crazy. I just had a there's no, you can't state sync it. There's a 300 gig snapshot. Like it's just losing money every month. Like, what am I doing with this thing?
And it fucking destroys drives too.
It does.
There's a couple of networks in here that just fucking destroy drives.
I had to cancel that drive because both drives had a 200% on the utilization number, and they were both overheating like crazy. It was a fucking mess of literally 0 transaction blocks.
Someone running a website can have that server now. Fuck them.
They're fucked. They're gonna get it. They're gonna look at it. They're like, what the hell?
This is gonna be like in 2014 when probably the last time I ran any bare metal, like turned off the last box in 2014, and it was after I think 2013 was where we had some drive failures on stuff that I was like, I've just brought up these bare metal rack stuff, literally just ordered them from the provider. Bitcoin miners, bet that was it. I bet I was getting fucked.
Sure it was.
Yeah, something like that. It was just degens, but just a different generation of degens. And I'm just there trying to run some data pipelines for the government. It's like, well, everything's fucking failing. Whatever the hard drives are failing, the fucking thing's going down, or we need to run the website on a different box. It won't run. What is this?
I don't know what I'm doing with some of this stuff.
We have like
time traveled.
In the validator stack, we have like multiple levels of redundancy, right? And when my drives get the nuke stage, I just let them eat until they go. But I haven't lost a drive yet, and some of them have gotten pretty fucking bad. So
I want to get rid of the server. I had another one that was like kind of had some room on it. I was like, I want to get rid of this thing. I guess I want to get the cost out of it too. Like I think I was spending $200 a month on Evmos or something. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
for what?
We run so our free Evmos RPC just gets beat the fuck up as well. I don't know what people are doing with that thing, but it gets beat up, and it like resets a lot. I don't know why. I mean, I don't care because it's a free RPC. So,
what do you mean resets? Like it like the service reboots?
Yeah, the service reboots. Because you would have seen like from my monitoring there, you get like a restart alert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I usually get a restart and a catching up alert early in the morning.
Yeah,
but it doesn't. I turn that off to come through to PagerDuty.
Yeah, who cares, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like PagerDuty is like send everything except free RPC. Because I don't
want to be
fucking care.
notified.
It's
Yeah,
free,
totally.
baby. Deal with it.
Aye.
Hey.
Hey.
So let's have a topic swing.
Yeah,
Because
enough about that.
our two viewers are here for the news. So thanks Rama again for the news topics for the week. I know you've been chomping at the bit waiting for us to get to them and stop talking about stupid validator shit.
Before we get to the news, I posted an important
segue.
question in the chat. Name the classic meme. For those of you listening later on podcast players, you're going to have to go to YouTube to participate in this particular game. So name the classic meme, and I'm about to throw up an emoji. Oh, there you go. Sorry.
Was that an old website that used to send people when you didn't like them?
Got it.
All right, yeah. I can't remember now. I've got to remember.
Well, don't name it, because then other people can't play along. No, if you got it.
It was an awful thing. Is it still around? It must be still around.
Oh yeah.
Is it?
It's like a mirror. It's a different website.
Where did that come from? What did you just randomly think of that? You're like, I have a donut.
I'm quite sleep deprived. Anyway, so we'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
It's now time for the drill tweet of the week.
Oh yeah.
Was that not it? Was that not the answer?
That was the answer. So Null, it's your turn this week.
Oh wait.
Say when.
Nope, that is not the answer. That is the other one I was thinking of.
When?
You are
right hand page, middle.
You're in the section.
I know this
marked
works.
Toilet.
Perfect.
Hey.
Left page or right page?
Right hand page, middle.
Middle.
With the third one. The third one.
Okay. The toilet feeler ruins another public restroom with his grubby hands.
The toilet feeler? Is that an implement?
Maybe it's a person. I think it's a person because he has grubby hands, apparently.
Why do they have grubby hands? Who's a toilet
feeling toilets, I suppose. That's distinctly in the Stray Joe pile. Love it. Yeah. Did I ever send you that video where it's like from the drill book? I can't remember the second drill book where it's like Mr. Awesome King of the Universe or whatever it's called, and somebody's got like the AI M&M to read out one of the stories from the book, and it's fucking great because they've just got the AI M&M to read it out, and they've just kind of loosely put it on the grid of, I think it might be I'm the Real Slim Shady, and it just because some of the one-liners are so stupid, it just sort of has this brilliant elegance to it where it's just like, this man saw that I was not to be fucking taken seriously and stuff, but it's like in Eminem's voice. It's just I'll try and find the link for the YouTube. Anyway, so no, you can go back to the news now. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
I mean, it is like the 7th time you've interrupted me. I don't feel like you're sorry at all.
If it makes you feel better,
no regrets.
When Rama was on last week, we interrupted the shit out of him too.
Oh yeah,
yeah, we did. Yeah.
How did Rama go? He's like one of 3 listening now.
He's not really. He doesn't really take care of plants at all. But other than that, like, it was a pretty good episode.
He doesn't take care of what?
His plants are all dead.
Oh, right.
Like behind him, it's all like just empty flower pots everywhere. So
he does, however, take exceptional care of his lawn.
We talked about
that.
We did talk.
Yeah.
I can tell you
the post show.
But we did talk about that. I think only part of the lawn, actually. I think we determined it was only
just
like
the front lawn.
Yeah.
Look, if you're just in it representing, you don't have to care about the fucking back lawn.
Yeah, you fuck the back. I agree. Doesn't matter.
You got to cut the checker pattern and everything in the front lawn. Like I've seen photos of it. It'll give you like a dad chub for sure.
That's what he said. He didn't show us. Well, he was going to actually walk around the house, but then I think we got distracted by reading the news. But please go ahead. Read
Oh,
the first one.
You made Rama read the news last week?
Yeah, yeah. That's why we had him on, because we don't because we didn't understand any of it. So that was kind of the idea. That's why he said good luck on this one, because honestly, this news item, the second one here, the row number 3. I read it 4 times. I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about. It was like a Seb Kuss type of situation where I had no idea. The first one is a good one though. You should read that one.
Okay, yeah, right. Well, here we go. In Rama's words, sad day for Cosmos as its largest public commons chain, Canto, announces it's migrating to a Polygon Validium. Unsurprisingly, the token pumped 13% on the announcement they're leaving Cosmos.
Is this one of the, I mean, we've had a lot of chains that have been migrating to Tendermint, right? Like DYDX, and we've had like all these different types of things that are moving towards this tool set. Is this one of the first ones that's moving away? I can't think of any other ones that have been really migrating away from Tendermint.
I think some NFT projects have, but not necessarily chains.
But L1s, as it was.
Yeah. I mean,
I assume this is this. I didn't read much about this. I assume this is investment based. Like, is it technology based, or is it like somebody rolled up and said, "Hey, we want this project, so therefore we're going to back a dump truck full of
I
money into your
would
house"?
suspect that their token is not going great.
Yeah.
And I would suspect that they have inferred that that is due to the ecosystem, not because they've got a shit network with a shit token.
So this is, and Rama says this is the first chain they're leaving because Evmos closed source licensed their product. I do remember this being pretty much a fork out of Evmos. So that means that this team is now responsible for basically rebuilding Canto as an EVM compatible chain on Polygon, or maybe they're forking
which is
something else.
already an EVM L2.
Right.
So
well, presumably they're just basically gonna fucking either fork or launch on that.
well, it's just a contract then, right?
Well, exactly.
Yeah. So
well, it'll be an L2, so it is a chain, but it's a chain that then rolls the transactions back up, right? So they are presumably going to run that chain just so they can tell everybody to redeploy all their smart contracts. Or I guess they'll work out a way of translating the state into a Genesis state and then just start the party up again on a chain.
Like Canto is just a general purpose EVM chain, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they're just looking for an EVM, basically. They're looking for a token they control on a thing that's making blocks that's EVM. So
both
an ETH2 makes sense.
So both Rama and Ryan Sean Adams said the largest public commons chain from Cosmos. Do you know what that definition means? What is a public commons chain?
That means that's what is at the top of their website, and it's what they put in the email when they emailed people. And nobody has fact checked that Canto is a shit chain.
What? Well, how is it a public like, wouldn't Juno be the largest public commons chain?
Juno would be the only public commons chain because it actually doesn't have an ownership structure around it or a foundation.
Rama says, "I stole Ryan's words for the meme." See, that's why.
Like I'm actually here
largest public commons chain. It's really not the largest public commons chain in the Cosmos, right? There's a I
would say it's a very common chain, maybe.
$200 million of Juno lost TVL would disagree about the idea that is the largest public.
Also, like, is your chain even public commons if it hasn't had a full fucking like?
Plus, you forked it. How do you fork? Like you?
Yeah, if you haven't had a proletarian uprising, is your chain even? Is your chain even a commons chain, bro? We've had like an entire political like cycle of destruction, like actual politics.
If you haven't had a smart contract to remove funds from a maybe exchange, maybe whale stealing airdrop wallet, then is it really a public commons chain?
This is like I'm just trying to figure out what a
Actually,
fucking
my
Validium
first
is.
paper that I'm going to be starting to write next month, Usurper. So I'm
I-
glad
that's
you just need to come up with I just need a pithy title.
I'll work on
Like,
it. Hey, your thesis title?
Rama,
We're gonna work on it
Rama
together.
says I'm like reading ahead to the next items. I'm not doing that. I'm still trying to figure out what a Validium is.
Isn't it?
So
Is that
it looks like, I don't know. I shouldn't have gone down the rabbit. It look like the first thing I come across is like Polygon wants to go ZK, and they're like transitioning the chain to ZK EVM Validium. I'm just going to back out and read
cool
the next
story,
item.
bro.
reverse,
ZK
reverse,
Validium.
reverse.
Gotta hit the brakes on that shit.
Well,
Yeah.
adios canto. I guess did Evmo stock go up because now that no, still down 6% today. Never mind.
Evmos is in a firm downward trend, I would say.
It actually had a little bit of a pump this week or last week. I think. It was
I think
down, like, 5
everything
cents.
bucked the trend a little bit this week.
Yeah,
Adios
Juno too,
Canto.
right?
Don't let
Yeah,
the door
folks
beat you on the way
excited
out.
that Juno went up 60% from
Yeah, it's
1
up
cent to
30% this
fucking
week.
1.5 cents.
Now it's 1.9. Hey,
Oh.
no, 19 cents.
Oh,
19 cents.
ew.
19 cents.
Remember it was $44.
Hey, that's
Anyone?
okay. Don't
Anyone?
shh.
So I did a little bit of quick math before, as you guys were talking about something completely fucking useless, and the for Juno to ATH again at $40, it would be about a market cap of $4.5 billion.
That should be fine.
Which is like a top 20 fucking
No
chain.
problem.
So that's
So what you're saying, could you do the same maths for Stargaze, please? Because these two questions, I think, will determine whether or not we unbond.
Hold on.
Stargaze, 50 cents, was it? 50 cents?
Yeah, it's 50.
Well, I think it hit 52 for like a day or something like that. But
Yeah.
I thought the realistic all-time high was like 45 or 44.
We sold a bit of stars at 50 cents.
Did you?
Yeah.
I held on.
We should have sold more.
I was holding on for $1. That was my thing. I was like, I'm selling.
I thought it was going to get $1. It just goes to show what I fucking. I was like, well, let's sell a bit. I was like, let's sell a bit, cover our AWS bill for the first few months, but I think this has got runway. And then like it started to go down, and I was just like, maybe we should sell a bit more because this AWS bill ain't getting smaller.
Maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more.
Maybe a bit more. Maybe a bit more. And you're like, maybe we're the reason it's going down, lads.
I remember the Frey talking about with you while I was getting a coffee on a Saturday morning about the $500,000 airdrop problem that we had with the accountant, which is no longer a problem.
Well, yeah, the problem was it was all vested, so we weren't going to get it for like whatever it was, X years. It was like, fuck, if we have to pay today's value, it's like $500,000. But what's it going to be worth in 5 years? And it's like, well, it could be worth millions of dollars. It's like, narrator, it was going to be worth.
It was not.
I guess it would be worth about $1,000 now.
Ayo.
I don't even want to think about what we paid on that in tax. Best not to.
You win some.
It seems to be mainly loot. There's the thing I've learned from going back through the books as I did them this week was the paper value. No, I've said that before. The paper value versus what's in the bank account at any given time in crypto is a widely divergent story. Like if the government ever came knocking and went, says that you've got $4 million in assets, you'd be like, yes, which of our many shitcoins would you like? Knock yourself out.
Stargaze would be about 1.2 billion at ATH again. Yeah, that thing with the shitcoin is that like, they're like, oh, you've got all this money, and they're like, if you can sell it, you can have it.
Right. Well, that's just it. Okay, hang on a second. Before I say this, I need to just So I was talking to our accountants about this, and I was like, well, but hang on, doesn't liquidity come into it, right? Because there's no way we can actually sell any of this stuff even in this market, absolutely not. But like even in a bull market, it would be really hard now in the Cosmos to shift any serious number of tokens, even like the majority of positions where we have vested or compounded or anything like that. It's just like absolute fantasy to think that some of those tokens are going to get back to, like, especially some of the shit coins that ended up at like $5, $10 or something like that. You're like, really? But hey, that's how it works anyway. So
that's how it works.
That's how it works.
There is apparently a stress test going on at the moment on one of my test nets. On one of my test nets.
Secret chain number 5.
Yeah. Secret experiment number 5.
Secret experiment. Our other stress test, I think, got canceled actually when we were getting prepped for.
Everyone's like, we're losing all the blocks.
On the chain that makes money.
It's not that bad. Keep stress testing, baby.
Realized that the other day. I was just like, it's nearly time to do the really, really stressful thing where we all have to commission a bunch of servers and fuck around for 4 weeks.
I was researching for like 3 weeks on some fat daddy fucking bare metal, which I found a couple and then had some help in finding some other ones and had a plan for it, something month to month. And I'm looking at those big old Epics 73, 93 74Fs and 95 74Fs, which are basically like 2 or 3 AMD 7950s like joined together with like a terabyte of RAM.
Yeah, baby.
Like these big dog type of things. Just
you
for
bare metal nerds have both got erections.
Just
cool.
All PCI 5 and like just badass, like really fast things to really for no reason, right? Like for no reason, for absolutely no.
But the thing is, like, you look at that, like in the last one of those stress tests, right? We spent in 1 month, like something like $16,000. We spent a huge amount on one rig on AWS to do that because we had to push the hardware requirements way up. It might even be more than $16,000.
Mistake.
So for this one, literally, I was trying to work out what to do, and I was like, we're gonna have to like do a load of benchmarking and blah 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 blah. And then I went to our provider and looked through their bare metal catalog and went from the box that we're currently using for mainnet, and then looked up a generation, and then looked up the spec sheet and went, that one's 4 times as expensive. That will do.
That'll be fine. No
That's
problem.
going to be absolutely fine because it's bare metal. It's going to be running for 1 month. It doesn't matter how much we thrash the hard drive. And
bring it up.
I'm going to be
set it down,
turning that bad boy off.
That's it.
Handing over 2K and then saying thank you very much.
12 drives and RAID 0.
So, sir,
yo,
I've been talking. Well, I've actually mentioned to you that I'm looking at building some servers at the moment, right? And they're going to be Epic servers and
EPIC, EPYC, or both.
EPYC
or both, really, right? They'll be Epic as well.
9004 series chips, and the drives I've been looking at for those, because this one needs quite a bit of NVMe storage.
Yes.
And those 15 terabyte drives have 1 million IOPS, which is...
They have 1 million IOPS?
1 million IOPS.
Is that like... What is that? Like the speed of light on every single fucking thing? Like that
is you can write the whole drive and unwrite the whole drive real quick.
Like just as many times as you want.
How much is one of those drives?
A few grand.
Is it really 1 million IOPS? Is that
1 million IOPS? Yeah.
Hey, and then when that chain goes to 0, you can have a really fucking fast
Your game
I will have 12 really fast drives.
Yeah. You could play Counter-Strike at like 1 million FPS.
Hey, I mean, I was talking the other day about how it'd be kind of cool to get back into what's it called, online first-person shooters.
I got a
with
game
all
box
that
right there.
Distant time I have.
Yeah, I still do some shit.
So let's do some quick calc.
What?
So the most expensive thing in this server is drives, right?
Yeah.
So if I get 15 of the 15 terabyte drives,
15 of the 15 terabyte drives.
Sorry, 12 of the 12.
Holy shit.
Oh, sorry, 15 is too many, but 12, that's a reasonable number.
So So that's
a lot of money.
Okay, so it's about say it's 18 grand a drive. Say the server's going to be about 20 grand, right? so at $125 a month, it'd only take 160 months for a
what to recoup the cost of one of those drives or all those drives?
Of one of those of the server to recoup the cost of the server at the current tick of a 200K
Look,
TV.
so really, if I can summarize the last hour, Niall has spent an hour very vigorously and moralistically defending the position of why you need to keep a server on, to basically present an hour of conclusions that suggest you should be turning off every validator that you currently run, not shopping for $20,000 servers.
I do think that your idea of being able to move validators to the down under, like that idea is a cool idea. And there's not a lot of infrastructure that's run out of Australia.
From down under. That's a night.
And I think in the grand scheme of things, it will make you absolutely nothing more and will probably make you lose more.
It'll definitely make me lose more money.
I don't think I think people love to talk that game, and we have other, partners who and you have chains who really want to push towards decentralization. They want these nodes in Central Africa, or they want it in South America, or they want it in Central America, or they want it in Australia, or they're difficult places to be able to host because of either infrastructure or just the speed of light, right? And I think those gains probably are less than the cost associated with those, unfortunately.
So to match the bandwidth of all of my current dedicated bare metal,
yeah,
right, at an Australian data center would cost me about fucking $8,000 a month.
Yeah. It's like basically they have to run new fiber just for you. Well, no, we're gonna have to run a boat and they're gonna have to drop this piece of glass.
We're gonna have to double the fucking subterranean fucking bandwidth.
40% is going to King nodes and the other percent is going to
look, okay, I'm not going to advocate for AWS. We've been there, we've done that. I was wrong. Whatever. Let's move on. Well, actually, no, we still run AWS for some stuff, to be fair. And actually, for things like signers, really good idea still. Anyway,
I would run AWS if I could figure it out at all.
We run one signer. We run one signer at AWS too. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's redundant. Somebody else is staying up all night watching that shit, right?
Exactly. I think if Cosmos were making more money, we'd basically complete our move from TMKMS works for us, so whatever, man.
Right.
But I think in a super ideal, Cosmos is absolutely smashing it. Setup, we'd finish our migration to. We've played around with Horcrux, but never migrated to it fully. We just have 3 signers in different AWS regions, maybe one in GCP, YOLO, and then just never worry about it again, right? And just bring up the odd one, bin the odd one, just on a rolling basis, right? But so there's a big gap of options. There's a gulf of different options between fully AWS and this insanity that Niall's talking about with having to run your own undersea cables. And I know, bit of exaggeration, but even so, back to the reason that this whole business is difficult is because you can't ever plan as a business your income, right? You have no idea what you're gonna be making in a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, right? And we've all had the thing where people try to market their chain to you, right, as a validator that has some notion of professionalism around them, or some whatever it is that means that people sometimes will approach you and be like, we're interested in you guys being a part of our Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
That all of that marketing and everything, you get that as a validator too, where everybody is, especially at the moment, to a certain extent, for a lot of chains, shilling them to you, right? But in amongst all of this, there's this question of well, back to I get Null, you've got an ongoing, never turn off, especially not in a bear market, so you can just ignore this bit because you obviously hate making money. So, but there's a question of like, well, you should probably actually optimize for infrastructure providers and infrastructure and build your entire stack as a business in such a way that, look, if you do find that everything does actually pretty much go to zero, and you really are like, it ain't getting up, lads, that you can on a 3-month time scale sort of reduce your infrastructure costs and your core business costs as close to zero yourselves as possible, apart from, you know, totally fixed costs. I don't know if you have like phone contracts and offices and stuff, you know, that kind of normal stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the big attraction, I think, always was for us to a certain extent for AWS, was like, well, look, if everything does prove to be very, very ephemeral, well, we're not sitting here writing. Well, I mean, I know in America you can write down the servers in a different way, so it's very tax advantaged, right? But here you can't. I don't want to be sitting around.
I mean, nobody.
Where
I mean,
we're going back to doing more traditional corporate consulting, and we've just got loads and loads of tin sitting around that we're having to do asset reconciliation on. We'd be like, this tin is useless to us. What the fuck?
Well,
you really need to be making money to be able to write something off.
I was going to say, you don't run a business. You really don't run a business based off of, like I've said this in the past. You try not to run a business based off of tax consequences associated to losses. like that's
yeah.
not really
It's
the
more
way.
carrying forward losses than what it
yeah.
is getting a tax write-off.
Yeah.
No. I was talking about write down the cost of servers.
Yeah, but writing them down is
It's
against
a cost. I mean,
yeah, the depreciation's against your balance sheet, but if your balance sheet's already negative, it just makes it more negative.
it doesn't
Sure,
matter.
but yeah. You have to be making money, and then you can write it. Yeah. Well, I mean,
right.
Well, because we're a business, we still actually astonishingly do make money. But you know, just
I mean, honestly, we to that point, like we used to run, like I used to have like 12-month contracts at a bunch of different agreements for servers and things like that, and all of those are month to month. Like I'm even willing to pay more month to month just to try to get out of long-term contracts, because you have no, without that visibility and without any sort of before, when we had like we had growth, and you had like at least things were moving at a decent positive. If you just step back, right, it was obviously ups and downs, but you had like at least a general growth aspect of things. You would say, all right, I'm willing to take a 20% discount on this infrastructure because of a contract, but I'm away from all that. It's all now. Everything could go away tomorrow, and I'm willing for it to go away tomorrow.
So just for the listeners though, we're not crying poor. All of us here run at a profit, but probably not from validating.
Yeah.
But you know, we're not dire. We're not going to go away tomorrow, so don't be worried about that, dear listener.
Well, I think it's that thing of like, a lot of what you have to do in any market or any kind of field is to you do a thing initially, right, to learn the market and to network and meet people and, you know, get your feet under the table, and then eventually you find out what your actual value add is, or the thing people actually need, and you do that instead. And
yeah,
to some extent, I think, yeah, less so now, because I think for us that certainly became smart contract engineering, which unfortunately now is not. There's nothing really that's profitable about that for us and the way we operate, which is a bit of a shame. And so we're in a bit of an impasse with that, I suppose, where, you know, whatever. But for other people, the example would be get into validating, sell RPCs, right, which can be pretty profitable if you have people who are willing to pay for that. Or institutional validation is another thing you can do. That's, you learn validation, network, market to different people, run institutional nodes. That's a perfectly valid different market strategy, I suppose.
The King Blockchain Pty Ltd, we supplement our validator losses by selling feet pics on OnlyFans.
I hope of your significant other.
we found our value and our product market fit.
Validatorfeedpics.com. Actually, what? Yeah. I mean, we've done all right with RPC nodes and like other types of things, but even that, like that, I don't consider that a That's not a revenue. That's a revenue that like keeps the lights on. It's not revenue that I think it's not life-changing revenue in any sort of way. And it's not even revenue that I would look at like an executive type role and say this is worth it. It's not necessarily that it's not worth it. Let me rephrase that. It's not an executive type of role where you would say this is like it's a crazy amount of revenue that like makes it a slam dunk. Like it's still like anything else. Like and even with some of those types of projects, like we talk about Validator, some of the stress associated RPC is even higher because you're providing a service that that really can have very little or zero downtime. Like a validator can miss blocks. It's not the end of the world, right? I mean, there's redundancy built in this network. RPC is going down. That chain is like, depending on what that RPC is used for, and the importance of that in kind of the project, that chain is dead. And that means that's a user experience issue. That means people get frustrated with that, and that has honestly has a lot more impact, I think, than a single validator missing blocks. Like, who gives a shit? And so some of the stress associated to that, like I feel more stress from the RPC side than I do on the validator side. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, you don't want to let your customers down.
Fuck no.
Okay, let's Rama's getting upset, and I don't want to lose him. So
he works for us.
Yeah. I feel like we work for him now.
This is another one of those, like,
actually, have we paid him yet?
You need somebody more than they need you. And
we haven't paid him
yet.
Yeah,
now.
I know.
I don't want to let him down. I feel like he
inside
spends
voice
time
out.
writing this stuff, and I just
it's a partnership. Yeah,
feels
it's a partnership. Yeah, no, I agree. Okay.
He feels like I can feel the vibe in the room.
That's what that emoji. That's what that emoji was earlier. It's an emoji that means partnership. The two
He's not
DMing the ring of partnership.
So I'm going to start.
Shit, you asshole.
I'm going to go all the way to the bottom to something that I can actually fucking understand more than what the other two are.
The other one is, I have no idea.
So Circle Rugs Noble, by launching their native stablecoin issuance on a Polkadot parachain asset hub, which can be transferred to other parachains via its XCM protocol. I don't see how that's a total rug. It's not. Isn't that a different ecosystem?
I thought so too. Yeah, I read that.
All right.
That's the one you did understand? That was the one I didn't understand.
Injective announces the launch of InEVM, hoping to tap into ETH liquidity and developers by enabling them to deploy applications on Injective rollups. This will enable ETH to Cosmos composability via IBC. Isn't that composable?
I don't know. Is it?
No. Well, composable is Polkadot, isn't it?
I just want to observe that I don't think we have it on anymore, but the Rainier Wolf Castle, that's the joke.
That's the joke.
The joke.
The thing with the Circle Rugs Noble.
Yeah.
Isn't it a different ecosystem? That's the joke. Yeah.
It's a joke. Yeah, that's the joke.
Mm-hmm.
So funny, something else that happened in Injective this week that is another talking point. So they have a government's proposal out at the moment. Okay, let me start. They have a trade and earn program, right? And it's like something to do with, you do some trading, you earn points, and then you get like, rewarded based on the amount of points you accrue over the month. And then there are some wallets that are just like wash trading with each other to accrue all the points and then get paid the rewards, which when you read that there's a program to incentivize trading, you would assume that that's exactly what people are going to do.
It's just Steve. It's all Steve.
But anyway, there's a proposal out to like nullify the points on those addresses, which I found quite interesting. Anyway, so this number 2, have you does it make any sense to you at all?
No.
I read a lot of fucking words in here.
4 times. Yeah. I read this.
I can go for this one.
Dr. Frey, do you get it?
Eclipse FND announces they've managed to get the Power Rangers together and have morphed into Dino Megazord. utilizing as much of the crypto technology as possible to ensure it is as hard as possible to build. So they're using Ether's settlement layer, execution via Solana's VM, Celestia for data availability, whatever the fuck that means, and risk ZK proofs. And additionally, Vuelta de España winner Seb Kuss will be marketing, be the spokesperson for the protocol, because winners use Eclipse FND. That's going to be there.
So I feel like there's someone...
the question. Sorry, no, but a question I think you're having is: am I a winner? Right? Do you feel insecure about whether or not you can even use Eclipse FND? Right? No matter what it is, that's not important. You want to be a part of this. You're already sold, but you're like, am I cool enough? Am I a winner? And no, you need to go into the bathroom, right? Look into the mirror and say, I am a winner. And then immediately get your credit out and go and buy some whatever fucking tokens this shit chain is.
I would rather take a video of what you just said and take it into the mirror and you telling me that I'm a winner. It feels more like endearing. Now, this Eclipse FND sounds to me like somebody
only winners on this podcast. No, you know this.
What?
We're only winners on this podcast. What's the line from Wolf of Wall Street? I don't ask you to be my losers because there are so few. My accountants wish that was true of our fucking business strategy. There's
so few of them.
So Eclipse FND seems to me like one guy sitting in a very large warehouse on a seat in the middle of said warehouse making like one of those quilted fucking blankets, like sewing it together with all the little squares of pictures of houses and shit. Hey?
A quilt, you mean?
A quilt, yeah. Like
one of those. A quilted blanket, also known as a quilt.
Like a quilt.
Well, you know, a quilt could just be like a big piece of fabric, right? But I'm talking about the little square ones where they take like a little square of a house and a little square of a dog and a little square of a fucking garden, and then they sew it all together, and that's your life.
I think that is a definition of a quilt.
Yeah, a quilt is a quilt.
Yeah,
they're quilting. Eclipse FND
might be defined actually by the shape, by the triangle. Because if you buy one from a shop, right, it obviously doesn't have like your grandma's sewn in a bunch of stuff to it, but it still has those triangular pockets, doesn't it? Not triangular. Square. They're fucking squares, aren't they? They're just on their tip. What the fuck?
What's that shape?
What is this? What is this shape with an equal side?
Looks like that.
This is going to be in 6 months' time when I have my transition Viva. They're going to be like, final question. Good job on the cryptography. What is this? We saw it on our quilt this morning when we were just thinking about getting up and coming into doing your Viva. We were like, let's just ask somebody who should know about that. And like, it's a rhombus.
Cube.
It's a rhombus.
I remember this from the Eclipse FMD fucking white paper.
It's a two-dimensional tesseract. It's a rhombus. It is actually a two-dimensional tesseract. That's true.
I read this
XYZ. Ben David says not all quilts are patchwork. See, I was right.
Is that true? Anyway, I read this.
Quilting is like the squares put all together. That's quilting.
I think that's a quilt. All right. I did
but
read
this. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like a fucking scrapbook, is what I'm saying.
I did read this this tweet and also the follow-on mirror.xyz long 25-page kind of poster on this, and it was so fucking degen. I felt like I needed to take a shower after reading this. Like it was
guys, can you believe that we're up to episode 80 of this shit?
What are we gonna do at episode 100? That's the big fucking question.
Shut it down. Turn it around.
Shut it down.
Going to 99.
Straight to the end. Straight to the zero. Straight in the wooden crate. Straight to the end of the warehouse.
We should.
At what point do we start to hit like that parabolic curve of like followers and shit? Because they say like your first couple of years, you know, your first year you have like, you know, 10 viewers, and your second year you have like 20 viewers, and your fourth year you've got like 7 million viewers. When do we get the 7 million? Is that the fourth year?
I think you have to hit the algorithm, which requires not getting demonetized every single episode, or swearing, or any of the other many things that we do, like fucking constantly.
Fuck, man, I don't know about any of that shit. That sounds technical.
Sorry, I know we're talking about the news. We just had a comment about winners from Ben Davis saying, did Coos really win when his teammates gifted it to him? Well,
damn it, Ben.
Ben, if his teammates gifted it to him, then they would have. They look. He opened the gap. They didn't open the gap to take red, and he held red. Whether or not Jonas Vingegaard could have taken the red off him is another question. I don't know. I think gifted would be a bit strong. Anyway.
I honestly do not know what in the fuck you're talking about. Is this football again?
Football.
Football.
I went to an Aussie Rules game once. It was totally baffling. And I was like, this is what happens when you just let a bunch of lads in the sunshine with beer just do their own thing. And then I looked it up, and the rules for Aussie football have been standardized for longer than the rules of like association football. And I was like, what? I am shooketh.
We're organized over here, man. The good thing about AFL, if you'd kindly stop saying Aussie Rules, that's fucking something else, is that
wait, what's the difference between Aussie Rules and AFL?
We call it AFL.
It's AFL.
Australian Football League.
That's the footy.
Right, but that's Aussie Rules.
No.
No,
slightly different.
Which one's the one where it's not rugby and it's not football?
It's AFL.
It's
but also Aussie Rules.
Yeah, right. It's rugby, but you can kick it.
The footy.
Yeah.
So anyway,
the rules of boys will be boys. Those are the rules that were standardized 150 years ago.
So I find AFL quite fucking boring on the TV, but if you go and see it live, it's great.
I've been to
people
a
are just
game.
beating each other up in the on the outfield and everything.
I've been to see it a couple of times.
I've been to a couple.
Baffling.
Far better live.
Baseball is the shit. Baseball is the one that makes sense live. I've tried to watch on the TV and it is the direst shit ever. But
no, baseball, you go, you drink and you hang out and you have fun,
but
and like, and the game is there.
Yeah, on the TV it's dreadful, but like anytime I get a chance to go and see a baseball game in person, I will go because it is fucking great. I've seen like I've seen like a couple in Arizona and a couple of Giants games in SF, and
that's like an American football. American football, you actually go to the game, like you're watching, like because it's exciting. Baseball, you're going to drink and hang out, and then there's something that's going on. That's how I remember the footy too, because I remember getting we were watching, but there was a lot of beer flowing and things like that there too.
That fucking American football seems so fucking lazy. They
really
like, fuck, man. They just like, they hike and then they like do 30 seconds of work, and then they like have a break for 5 minutes while they find their line. It's the slowest, most boring shit ever.
Yeah, it's just like ruck over and carry on, lads. Like you just push the people over, grab the ball, and
boys.
Keep going.
Crazy.
That would never be. That wouldn't survive in rugby. Fucking hell.
Yeah,
it's too big.
Crazy athleticism, though. More than I think
30 seconds.
Any other sports. Seriously, but I mean, look at the athleticism in there more than rugby. You're just, I mean, there's some athleticism there, but
they wear all that shit.
Jonah Lomu could sprint nearly as fast as an Olympic sprinter whilst being a tank. I mean, there is a lot of anyway. I'm not even that into rugby. I don't even know why I'm standing for it.
Stand for it.
I don't know what. To
be
fair, Game of Notes. I don't know why I'm doing this. Like
everything. Man.
That would be one of the t-shirts of all time. So yeah.
Holy shit! Cosmo versus coming in a couple of weeks, huh? It's already. It's
October. So do you think that like the casual punter? Do you think the casual punter who happens upon our little group chat here, like, do you think that this would discourage or encourage people from crypto?
I hope discourage.
Do we like provide any value?
I talked back to that OmniFlix thing where we talked about this morning. I talked a ton about Game of Notes today, and Sisla Beck from OmniFlix backed me up as well, because I was talking about like we're not chilling and all this type of stuff, and and kind of what's going into it. But I think we're running a service.